They denied my renovation before I even submitted the final blueprint. Karen didn't even pretend to read the folder. She tapped her pearl earrings, leaned back in her chair, and said, "This kind of modern design doesn't reflect the character of our community." She didn't like that I didn't ask for her blessing first. The room smelled like coffee and quiet intimidation. 3 board members nodded like trained pigeons. My renovation, a clean glass extension, fully city approved, architect stamped, structural engineer signed off, legal, beautiful. Karen slid the denial form across the table with a soft smile. "If you proceed, fines will begin immediately, $500 per day." Neighbors watched from the back row, some uncomfortable, some entertained. I didn't argue, I didn't defend, I simply asked one question. "Karen, are all board decisions recorded?" Her smile tightened. "Of course." Good. Because what she didn't know was that I'd already requested the last 12 months of official HOA recordings under state records law. And in those recordings, her voice, her patterns, her selective approvals. If you love powerful stories, you don't want to miss this. But before we continue, tell us where you are watching from. It makes us happy to see how far our stories travel. Please like, comment, and subscribe. They thought this was about architecture. It wasn't. It was about power, and Karen had just made one expensive mistake. The violation notice showed up at 6:12 a.m., bright orange, crooked, dramatic, unauthorized structural modification. Fine, $500 per day. Construction hadn't even started. The glass panels were still wrapped in foam in my garage. Karen wasn't enforcing rules. She was performing dominance. By noon, neighbors were texting me photos of her walking the street with her clipboard like a mall cop on caffeine. She wanted visibility, fear, submission. Instead, I made 3 quiet moves. First, I filed a formal records request for every HOA meeting recording from the past year. Second, I requested a copy of the HOA's directors and officers insurance policy. Third, I scheduled a special homeowner transparency meeting. Public. Recorded. Karen responded with an email blast. "Mr. Whitmore is attempting to disrupt board harmony with baseless accusations." Harmony. Interesting word for selective enforcement. 2 board members stopped by my house that evening. Nervous. "Karen said you're threatening litigation," one whispered. I handed them printed transcripts from prior meetings. Highlighted sections. Her voice saying, "Approve hers. She's cooperative. Table his request. He's getting too comfortable." The color drained from their faces. Then I showed them something worse. The insurance renewal summary, or what was missing. 6 months ago, under Karen's leadership, the HOA quietly removed the personal liability rider for board members to reduce expenses. Meaning, if misconduct was proven, the board wouldn't be protected. They would be personally liable. Homes, savings, everything. Suddenly, this wasn't about my renovation. It was about their survival. Karen still thought she was in control. She had no idea the next meeting would change her life. The clubhouse was packed, not the usual 5 retirees and stale cookies. I'm talking standing room only. Phones out, neighbors whispering, energy thick. Karen walked in glowing with artificial confidence. Red blazer, pearl earrings, clipboard clutched like a weapon. "Let's keep this respectful," she announced. I almost laughed. When my turn came, I didn't attack. I pressed play. Her voice filled the room through the official HOA speakers. Clear, undeniable. Deny Whitmore's application. He's getting too comfortable. A ripple of shock moved across the chairs. Karen froze. "That's taken out of context," she snapped. Slide 2. Another recording. "Approve hers. She's cooperative." Slide 3. "Table his. He doesn't need encouragement." The vice president slowly removed his glasses. "Karen, are these authentic?" I handed him the certified copies from the HOA archives. Time-stamped, logged, untouched. Then I projected the insurance summary onto the wall. Highlighted line. "Directors and officers' personal liability coverage removed." Gasps. A board member whispered, "Karen told us that was a duplicate expense." I nodded calmly. Selective enforcement voids board immunity in this state. If homeowners sue, you're personally exposed. Karen stood up abruptly. "He's threatening the board." "No," I said softly. "I'm educating it." Then came the final twist of the night. I slid certified envelopes across the table, filed complaints, already submitted to the state regulatory division. Silence swallowed the room. Karen wasn't just embarrassed, she was cornered. Please like, comment, and subscribe. The silence didn't break. It fractured. Karen looked around the room like someone searching for allies in a burning building. No one met her eyes. "You went behind the board's back," she said, voice shaking now. I stayed seated, relaxed, steady. "I went through the law." The vice president cleared his throat. Karen, why was the liability coverage removed without a formal vote? She opened her mouth. Nothing came out because there wasn't a vote. She had signed the adjustment herself under executive discretion, trying to look decisive, trying to look powerful. Instead, she exposed every single board member to personal lawsuits. And the neighbors? They were furious. You fined my husband $2,000 last year. You threatened to lien my property. You said we had no recourse. Karen's clipboard slipped from her hands again, but the real collapse came 10 minutes later. Her phone buzzed, she glanced down and went pale. The state regulatory office had already acknowledged receipt of the complaint and requested immediate documentation from the HOA. The board saw the email over her shoulder. One member stood up. I motion to suspend Karen effective immediately pending investigation. Seconded. Unanimous. No dramatic shouting, no applause, just cold, official removal. 2 weeks later, the HOA reinstated the insurance rider. 3 weeks later, my renovation was approved unanimously. And something beautiful happened. Neighbors began attending meetings, reading documents, asking questions. Karen wanted obedience. She created awareness instead. My glass extension was finished by summer, clean, modern, stunning, and every time sunlight pours through those panels, I smile. Because power isn't loud, it's prepared. Please like, comment, and subscribe.